Hello, this is the fifth and final video in our series of videos where we address the myths of deliverance ministry. In the first one, we considered the question of whether or not deliverance ministry was for today and if it was fake. In the second video, we looked at manifestations during deliverance ministry. Did they have to be part of what was happening? The third one focused on whether or not Christians could be oppressed by demonic spirits. The fourth video considered and looked at the issue of whether or not deliverance ministry was dangerous and what, if anything, might make it less dangerous. All these videos are available on our website.
Right. And today we want to build upon what we talked about the last time. And that topic was whether or not deliverance ministry was dangerous and whether only the clergy should be doing it. Many people in the survey had that view, and we consider that a myth that we need to be addressing today.
Now, in those prior videos, we've concluded and made the case as best as we were able that deliverance ministry is for today and that it certainly does not have to be dangerous. Now, we know firsthand from talking with pastors and ministry to clients over the years that there's a great deal of misinformation and fear associated with deliverance ministry.
Yeah, it's often, viewed as mystical or complicated, like a spiritual process, because it does deal directly with the demonic realm. And many people think that as individual believers, or just say sheep in the flock, that they're not qualified or good enough to do deliverance. We think that notion gets reinforced in many churches because only deliverance ministry that people see is typically happening at the altar.
Yes.
So it's usually a pastor, church leader, maybe a guest minister who does the deliverance or calling out of spirits. And so therefore people assume that they may be the only ones that are qualified to do it.
Now, we're very much of the view and the mindset, if you like, that all believers, all of Christ's disciples, can be effective ministers of deliverance.
Right.
And we see that Jesus did deliverance ministry. He trained the disciples to do it. And in fact, he trained many others because it does say that he sent out 70 of them out in pairs to do ministry. They returned to Jesus rejoicing in the fact that they saw demons leaving people. Now, that's in Luke 10, and that account in verses 1 to 20. Now, we know that the disciples, and certainly the 70, were very ordinary people in many ways, people of the day, and we think that model carries over into the present time.
Yeah. So how do we get to this point where we see ordinary people doing deliverance in the Bible to large parts of the church having a concern about those ordinary people doing it? Now, please don't get us wrong. We don't believe that deliverance ministry should be under it should be under a ministry or a church covering, just as any other ministry in the church is. But we're not fans or proponents of the lone wolf approach where people are out there on their own without that covering. It's not healthy, and in fact, we believe that it's really a dangerous place for people to be.
In fact, we contend that deliverance ministry should be part of a church's ministry program, if, in fact, that church, of course, does believe in deliverance ministry.
Right.
You look at churches, how they're structured. They have a children's ministry, a preaching ministry, teaching, if you like, a worship ministry, outreach ministries, and many churches have a deliverance ministry. Now, I would ask, why shouldn't there be a deliverance ministry? Why should people have to go outside to get help when we know that so many in the church, in Christ's church, need this type of ministry?
Right. And in Ephesians 4:11 through 12, Paul tells us God raised up some to be apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers. And this listing of offices in the church is focused on building up, training, and equipping the saints to do the work of the ministry. Why should one presume that teaching and training believers in deliverance ministry would be excluded from those tasks? The ministry needs to be raised up under the covering of the pastor and the church leadership, but they don't have to be the only ones doing it.
We believe that the premise for training others is pretty simple. The best pastors and teachers and evangelists are those that God has gifted with abilities in those areas and also given them a desire to minister. Now, in my own case, about 14 years ago, I got exposed to a deliverance ministry session at the conclusion of a seminar that I was attending. And my wife and I were both at this seminar, got interested at the same time. And, it was powerful and exciting, Phyllis, to see the power of God move to see someone get set free during a deliverance session. And I know for me, something quickened in my spirit. It got me excited. It said, I want to learn more about this. You see, prior to that, I'd always enjoyed praying for people to be healed. I was part of a healing team at our church, and I believed in the present day power for healing in the church. And so I saw deliverance ministry when I got exposed to it and say, I see that as real, and I see that as a complement to praying for people for healing, and even counseling. So the desire was there to learn, and I knew in my spirit that was part of God's calling, along with counseling people, that was on my life. So that's how it worked for me. Phyllis, how did it happen in your life?
Well, the counseling thing is, it is a call. It is on your life. And I had a friend that actually had gone through deliverance, and her testimony was so large of her freedom that, it made me come in. And so for me, when I came in, it was the freedom typically from generational curses that made a huge impact in my life. I went through deliverance in May of that year, and by August of the same year, I was enrolled in what we called our boot camp training, because I really needed to know more about the ministry itself and how to translate it into helping with others. And so it didn't take too long where I was actually working with a team after that. And then, I enrolled in the master's program the following year and started doing volunteer work with my church in counseling in that area. So, it is a big part of everything that we do. Likewise, we encounter people who know that they have a ministry call in their life, like we did, but it's not necessarily in teaching children or pastoring or leading worship. But for some of them, it's called into the area of counseling and deliverance, like it was for us. So we see deliverance ministry as a wonderful complement to counseling people. Likewise, people who enjoy praying healing for people, like you and I did, also have those gifts of healing, are naturally drawn to a deliverance ministry like ours. And typically counseling, as well as because it's all about helping people.
That's the bottom line. It is about helping people, doing whatever it takes to really help them get free, whether it's counseling, praying for healing, or deliverance. This then concludes our 5-video series on some of the myths of deliverance ministry that we felt should be addressed in light of the survey that we completed. And we hope it's been interesting, and you'll keep checking back with us. If you have an interest in receiving deliverance ministry for yourself or a friend or a relative, let us know. If you've got an interest in learning about how to be trained to do deliverance ministry in the style that we use, we encourage you to visit our Counseling Academy website. We'd like to thank you for watching this series. God bless you.